Live. This one has been a long time coming. Ricky Cooper, welcome, welcome, welcome. What an honor and a pleasure to have you.
Oh, thank you very much. Yeah, it has been a while coming. Lots of activity on our side, as you know, but thank you for your patience. And we knew we'd make it work, Sabrina.
That's right. That's right. A lot. In fact, we're going to dig into some of that today. If for some that maybe don't know, you are the head of global OEM sales for Broadcom. You ran global channels for VMware and then came over to Broadcom during the acquisition, reporting directly to Hawk. You are doing some of the most impressive and fun things. You and I get to have these conversations offline, and I'm just always in awe of the things that you've done and that you're doing. You are the captain of the Wales Polo team under the esteemed patronage of now the King of England. Is that right?
Yeah. We're not sure how long that will last, though, because obviously Prince of Wales was a great link. Now he's the king. You'll see there's a lot less working royals than there was at that time. So maybe William as Prince of Wales will pick us up. But I know they're sorting out now where the patronages go, because it's amazing. You see how many, different organizations that they deal with. It's just amazing to see. There was a few years ago when I think it was Charles's 70th birthday. Yeah. And he had all of the organizations for which he was head, which he was patron. And there were hundreds of them at Buckingham Palace got together for his birthday celebration. So some a lot more worthy than us, but we like to play for various different charities wherever we turn up, usually a decent crowd, and making money for various charities across the way.
That's amazing. That's amazing.
A little like the Harlem Globetrotters of polo.
So if you Google Ricky Cooper, not only will you find some of the most incredible, impressive, I mean, you've worked on major acquisitions, including with Dell. Is that right?
Yeah,
the
Dell and Microsoft piece were, the Dell and Microsoft piece is where I began many, many years ago. That you can imagine that synergy was huge at that. Well, it still is to this day. I mean, Microsoft are a huge partner of Dell's. And then it moved on to Dell and VMware, of course. I was present when we rang the bell, when we broke away. We had the split from Dell not so long ago. And we put in place the framework agreement between the two companies, which was a 5-year agreement, following that separation. And that, you can imagine, during lockdown, the dark nights, I was on calls at 1, 2 o'clock in the morning with the lawyers on the other side of the pond where you are. And some 2 or 3 times a week, that was for a year and a half. So some good synergies between the teams, some good memories there. And then we got to ring the bell at the end of all of that. And then within a few months, learned as we became independent, hey, that's not going to last too long. We're now in with Broadcom. So those discussions started around May, June, almost 2 years ago now. Can you believe it? We're coming up on 2 years.
It feels like it. It feels like it's been 2 years. So that does track for me.
Yeah.
We've all been trying to figure out what's going on and what is this going to pan out like? What is this going to look like? Well, on top of that, you've also managed to run countless marathons, which we have more than 10. Is that right?
Yeah, it's 20 now. Yeah.
I don't know how you're doing.
We nearly did that Chicago one together, but
I know.
It was just the sheer volume of work took me away, unfortunately. And I put on a few pounds since then, but back into it this year.
I was going to say, I signed up for the Chicago, so I'm
very good.
You are,
Oh, you're back in. Oh, fantastic.
I'm back in.
Very good.
In fact, there are some amazing lessons that you and I have talked about in relation to running marathons, in relation to all the work you've done. But before we get into all of that, because I, of course, so many questions for you, I want to take a step back. For those who don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself. What should people know about you?
Well, I mean, I like to keep busy. I think that's been evident over the last few years. And coming out of 3 years post the split with Dell and the acquisition with Broadcom, not only in work but in life as well. I played ice hockey at international level with the Great Britain team, and did, I'd say, between the ice and the inline hockey is a huge thing across the world. And we still get together once a year and play the vets tournaments, you know. So those, every year it goes up for over 40, over 45, over 50. So it's great to see the guys from across, you know, Czech Republic, America, Canada, etc., and the faces that you've known since you're sort of in your 20s, the Germans, and, you know, we all get together. And a huge tournament still takes place today. So I've probably done about 20 world or European championships there. We've got a win or two against USA, which is a miracle for us coming from Great Britain, which is good. But in our later years, not in the early years, they used to beat us quite easily. So I've always done that, and then you know, got into the polo side of things as well. And I've been playing now for maybe, God, it must be 30 years, something like that now. And still playing to this day, although that tailed off over the last 2 or 3 years with all of the volume of work that we had. So when work takes over, that's good. And then the marathons obviously help to keep you fit, and as the years advance, keep you fit and keep you sharp, you know. So looking forward to getting it back into some of that running as well. Got a family here. My son is playing in the Junior Premier League at the moment, so plays the likes of Arsenal and Tottenham and all the big teams here, now going out to Europe as well. He's 11 years old, doing exceptionally well. My daughter's a classically trained singer, so completely different, and we don't understand where that came from, you know, because it's not myself or my wife. So yeah, there's a little bit of the background. So there's 4 of us and 2 tiny chihuahuas who I have to put up with because the kids want them.
You know, you have to sacrifice in life sometimes.
There you go.
With dogs, that's the best kind of sacrifice. So.
Yeah, but they told me that we're getting like a Doberman dog that's going to guard the house, but it's never grown. It just stayed about that big. I think they fooled me on that one. No, but
anytime someone hears them barking, they're not breaking in. So maybe, you know, maybe you did end up getting a bit of a guard.
Yeah, there you go. Sure. There you go. So yeah, hopefully you learn a lot. I mean, a lot of teamwork outside of the office, but also that then rubs off inside of the office as well. A lot of strategy and you know, playing in big European championship, world championships, British titles. I think I've won about 5 British titles in different sports, you know, snow polo, no, not snow, actually, that's world, isn't it? That's world is snow polo. There's not that much snow here in England. Beach polo, then obviously ice hockey and the inline hockey. Yeah, you add them all up, there's quite a few different titles in there, different sports, different disciplines.
And we've talked about this a little bit, and it's stuck with me. When we talked about, you know, you really don't get good at running marathons until you've done at least your 10th marathon, or maybe that's what your experience was.
That's my experience. Yeah, that's my, you get a lot of them wrong. I think when I started early, you know, you think, oh, I'll be fine. I didn't really train very much at all. And you realize almost immediately after the race that you can't walk up steps and stuff. You've done decent time because you're young enough to do that, you know, but then for the next few days, it pays. And you wonder what you could have done if you'd have trained, you know, a lot more. And then all of the things like fueling and, you know, making sure you're taking on the right water and the right food at the right time. And everybody's different, I guess, but I get the most success and run constant times. You know, if you start running at 8-minute miles, you'll finish at 8-minute miles. That was a big learning, not going off too fast. I ran one, I started doing 6-7-minute miles at the start because it was downhill. By the end, my last mile was 40-minute miles because I'd used everything at the start, you know. So that's when you hit the wall. But you don't hit the wall so much if you pace correctly, if you're eating correctly throughout. You have to fuel the whole way through. And I didn't do that in the first few. And, you know, even drinking in the first few, I didn't understand quite what you needed. So, you know, my advice to anybody would be really look at what you need to be eating on a mile by mile basis. And it's tough to do because you don't feel hungry at that time, but you got to force yourself, or that energy just disappears. And like I say, everyone's different, but yeah, after about 10, you get it right. It's the only reason I'm still going.
I think there's so many parallels to your athletic world to our business world. in how you manage a family, but also how you manage a team, how you manage expectations. I'm sure you're dealing with it right now as you report to Hawk, and all you're doing with Broadcom. And there's no doubt. I mean, just in our industry alone, you're known for execution. You are known for innovation. If you want to get things done, you talk to Ricky Cooper. In fact, I had an email exchange about you to Chuck Robbins at Cisco. I mean, you are just very well known in our industry at very high levels for execution and innovation. Do you see parallels in your athletic world? I mean, even as you're talking about preparing for a marathon or staying in the game, or not giving up to your 10th marathon, I start to notice a lot of these life lessons that even us in our individual roles, whether you're an IC watching, a leader watching, a leader of many teams, a leader of one team. Tell me about that.
A lot of it, I think, is communication and quick action and execution. You got where I am now. We've got to change things up a little bit. We've not always in agreement with everybody, but some people you are in agreement with. You realize you're not going to please everybody. You got to deliver messages, and I think if you do that in the most courteous way that you can, and take the time to explain and communicate throughout, then it makes it that little bit easier, and make yourself available, to have those discussions as well. And it's tough, right? Because a lot of people, as you go down the organization, a lot of people aren't prepared to give those messages and haven't really thought about how to deliver them, etc. But communication is key, and that's been pretty tough for us as you come out of an acquisition. And you've got to deliver news that not everybody's going to be in agreement with. And I think the tendency is to shy away from that sometimes. But I think getting that message across as quickly as possible, and then working on, okay, what are we going to do to take this forward, certainly helps. So that execution piece certainly comes in. With regards to the innovation, I think, what we were doing at VMware in the last year or so, looking at our programs, looking at automating that commercial space as an example, where we had a whole bunch of salespeople, and now you've got the disties and you've got the partners with increased capabilities, increased automation capabilities that can really help you. You don't necessarily need a whole sales force there. Your distie becomes your sales force, and their reach and their span is far more than yours can ever be. I mean, if you take, what have we got? Maybe 2,500 sellers. And, you look at the distie landscape or the OEMs, some of these guys, you had Dell, Lenovo, HP, Fujitsu, and Cisco, and NEC, Hitachi. Add all of them together, you got hundreds of thousands of people that could take that message for you. So it's about being a little wiser, using the connections that you have, and again, communication comes in all the way through with those discussions as well. And being prepared to do some things a little bit differently as well. That's it's very easy to continue with the norm, and that was one big thing. I mean, at VMware, you've got thousands and thousands of SKUs. It was, you needed a degree in how to work out how to place orders sometimes, so simplifying processes and just taking away a lot of the confusion and making it easy to do business with is certainly helpful as well. And testing what's been there for some time, don't be afraid to test the standard, what is today. How do you progress that forward?
How do you prepare for that? I mean, if you're going in, let's say you've got a tough decision, we've just outlined a few incredibly difficult decisions and conversations, because you talked about making action quickly. How do you take action quickly when you're not sure what to do? What does that look like for Ricky Cooper? Do you go in a hole and study? Do you ask a bunch of friends that you trust? Do you read? What are a combination? What do you do?
I think initially I did. As you're moving up, now you are, when a decision is made, it's on you. Okay, so go and make it happen as quickly as you can. So you don't therefore need to, because you've learned from experiences over many, many years. You don't need to necessarily go and consult a whole bunch of people. It's on you. And so, you get the direction, and then you go and implement it. But you talk your team and you talk the partners and the OEMs, you talk them through the decisions. And again, that's really the key. And I think you've got to show some empathy as well, because there's a lot of decisions here that's being made. Nothing against any individual. I mean, it's nothing against any name. My name could have been on the list. Hey, they don't need me going forward. And then half in your head, you've got to think, okay, what am I going to do if this happens? So it's always being prepared. What am I going to do if this happens to me? Oh, okay, no, I'm here. Right. Okay, then let me walk everybody that I've got with me still through what those next steps are. But, there's an empathy side into the industry is changing. The automation within the industry is changing. And, maybe we didn't need as many people as we have previously. And there's a different business model that we can implement here now, which, isn't necessarily based on having as many heads as we have in the past.
Right.
And you've got to embrace that and move forward. And it's been fantastic to see so many people actually pick up new opportunities, and that VMware, the VMware family are sort of looking after each other as they're landing in spots. They're bringing people in with them, which is great to see as well. So it's being as supportive there as you can be, but equally, some people don't want to talk. Some people are, still dealing with the situation. And, I think as they land and as they move on, I think many of us have been in, myself included, have been in a position where you've got to go and look for something new. And it comes as a bit of a shock. I've been through that myself. That's why maybe I'm a bit more empathetic there, but treating people with respect and dignity is one thing as well that helps in those circumstances.
You definitely see the human part of people. I've noticed that even in our conversations. I mean, of course, we talk about business. That's part of our job.
Yeah.
But there's also this human element of it. And it's something that, if you're willing to, I'd love to explore with you is, people getting to know a little bit more your human side, because you're known for all of these very big, amazing things, which is incredible. I mean, you've done more in your lifetime in just a fraction that some people will do in their entire lifetimes. And not to say one person is better than the other or whatever, but you've done a lot, and you've done a really incredible job with the time and the resources that you have. But if I can be so bold, I think that some people could look at you and see privilege where maybe some is, but maybe some is being attributed where it shouldn't necessarily be. Can we go there?
Absolutely. Yeah. Look, I think now where I am is what I've built for myself and for my family. Where I came from was very different. I didn't have privilege at all. Grew up in going across, living in council houses, this type of stuff here in the UK. So it wasn't a privileged background at all. And I think now the persona that I have and that I've created since, I was in a place, I think I've said to you before, coming out of school, my family had left their home. So I was in a position where I'm starting to pay the bills at 16, 17 years old. And you either sink or you swim. And, the easy thing to do is to ignore your responsibilities, have a few drinks, go out, etc., etc. I was catching trains into London, which was probably about an hour and 20-minute journey every day. And then the same coming back out. As a 16-year-old, it's fine to do it now. We all have to travel, but I felt nothing about trying to change my situation. And being the right thing to do. So whilst all of my friends were out, enjoying things, and if they made a mistake, let's say they moved out of home, they made a mistake, they could always go back to family. If I made a mistake, I'm done.
Yeah.
So that's what kept driving me, I think, more than anything else. So traveling into London, I got myself, maybe because of my ability to communicate, I got myself some good jobs working in financial advisors at the time, and I was writing, I got taught very early to write reports about, where investment should go. Should it be stocks and bonds? Here's a profile of somebody. I'd write up the whole profile and then talk about where they should invest their money, pensions, life assurance, blah, blah, blah. And I had no experience to do it. I was given a chance, just given a chance. And then my boss at the time, he would redline everything. The first time it came back, I'm like, oh my God. And you realize you're overusing words. Communication's what I was talking about. Yeah. Now I still got I still luckily got the learning that I can look at something and I can cut it down very, very quickly. And in my later life, I was doing that for Steve Ballmer at Microsoft when he came to New York. I was building all of the presentations, etc. Obviously, been in front of Pat and Michael quite often now with Hock all the time. These skills come in, and with Raghu as well. These skills come in handy. So I think that helped me from a very early age to learn how to write, learn how to communicate, being in that space at that time. And then I noticed an opportunity. Being in financial advice was great, but as IT started to grow, I started to see, first of all, hey, this is a good opportunity for sales. And that's when I joined Dell at a relatively young age, selling over at Dell. I tell you a very quick story that when I began, I walked in and they said, have you got any experience with selling? And I said, no, I don't. And they said, okay, go to Yellow Pages. You remember Yellow Pages?
I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
Or you guys call it Yell, right? Is it Yell?
No, it's Yellow Pages.
Yellow Pages. Okay. Go there and they hammer you. They teach you how to sell properly. So I said, okay. And when they say you can come back, Dell had an agreement with these guys. When they say you can come back and you've learned enough, then you hit these certain targets. I was back at Dell within 2 months or 3 months because I'd smashed all my targets. And what I used to do every morning, let's say you had to make 7 sales. I was in there is no great space at Yellow Pages at that time, but I was on the corporate side of things, selling to companies. And you had to do 7 in a day. I would do, maybe 14 in the morning. Yeah. And then the rest of the day, just, try and do as many as you can. So every day I was ahead of the curve. But they put you into a room and the whole class would be, this is during training, the whole class would be on one side of the wall, you're on the other, and they call you. And then you have to put into action everything that they've trained you on with regards to sales. So, it was a good harsh lesson back then, and they don't do anything like that to my knowledge these days. Certainly I haven't seen it in the IT industry soon. So I thank Dell and my manager at the time that put me through that. But they took me back in. That was good.
I think that says a lot about you again, that you're like, okay, I'm going to take this opportunity and I'm going to give it 100%. I'm not going to leave anything on the table.
Yeah.
And that, you recognize that people have given you a chance.
Yeah.
I openly talk about how I got into the IT industry was because a gentleman, Michael Capes, gave me a chance, and he said, hey, you're a lawyer and you own this other business, but I have an idea and I think you can be incredibly successful. And we doubled the size of the company in 2 years. I mean, it was just like, okay, I don't know anything about tech. I don't know anything about sales. And I definitely don't know anything about leadership. Let's go. Let's give it a chance. And I gave it everything that I had. And I wonder too, if a lot of it is your background, coming up with, very similar. I moved out at 16, and there was no home to move back to. It was like, you're on your own, kid. There was no college fund. There was no, hey, mom, hey, dad, can I have $20 for,
Nothing.
There just wasn't that. So you had to figure out how to be resourceful. You had to figure out how to, frankly, figure it out. There were no other ways. It was success or not.
That's it.
Is there a way to teach teams that level of grit, that level of resilience? Or is that something that's just innate?
Yeah, that's a tough one. I mean, it's all life circumstance, really, isn't it? A lot of what we're talking about here, and taking opportunities when they present themselves. But I guess the closest to it will be maximizing any opportunity that you're given. And as a manager, to give an opportunity to individuals that you see that want to, that have got that tenacity to work hard. You don't have to go through real tough times to be a real, good tenacity, have great tenacity and want to work hard and want to improve yourself, and I see that when you've got thousands of people that you're managing, you see people bubble up and you see people that are going in the right direction. And I'd like to think that the team that we're with over at Broadcom that came across from VMware are a team that listen, a team that want to, want the best for the company, that want to move the ball forward during all of the adversity that we've found. But it's hard to teach. It's hard to teach because I think some of it, I mean, if I look at my daughter and my son, has got this ability to just it's an interesting one because he's got the kindest heart, but he wants to win at everything that he's doing, and it's just him. My daughter, not so much so, but she's very creative, and there's a different beauty to what she's doing. Right. Not everybody's the same. Not everybody wants to go and be a leader. Some are happy. Okay, I want to go to work, do my piece, and my energies are in different areas of my life. It's all good. It's but if there's people coming in that are really, tenacious, but they're hard to find with that background from a young age. Right. You've got to give people the opportunities to go and try and fail and, try and succeed and win through as well,
Yeah, completely. And it's interesting that you talk about communication being something that you've invested in so much and how much it's helped you. Warren Buffett talks about that all the time. All the time about how important. He even took a class, I think Dale Carnegie, he took a Dale, Dale class, and he said that was one of the best investments in himself that he's ever made, was learning how to communicate.
Yeah.
So I know we just have a few more minutes. In fact, we're a little bit over, but this is so good. I just have to ask you one more question.
Yeah.
Because you mentioned it, and I'm like, I wonder how Ricky deals with this. How do you deal with failure? You gave it your all. You worked hard. You innovated. You executed, but it just didn't hit the mark. What do you do? How does Ricky Cooper deal with failure?
Yeah, I mean, you put yourself in the position to go and succeed. I'm going through it right now. We're playing in the Gold Cup here in the UK, which is the top teams in the UK playing in a small arena. So it's like an ice hockey type of arena, and the margin, and it's the top level here of arena polo, and the margins are so slim. We lost at the weekend by a goal, but we keep losing by a goal, and this isn't the first time. Last year we got to the semi-final last year, but we're losing by that odd goal, and so you have a choice. You say, okay, I'm done, I'm not going to do this anymore. Or you say, all right, we'll go back, we'll tweak a few things, we'll improve this, because the goal isn't very much. I mean, when the score's 22-21,
right,
really not that much, believe me. And there's a few decisions in there, there's a few opportunities that we miss. It's such a close game, and it can be hit or miss. But the situation then is, you can give up, or you can go again. I mean, I ran a New York marathon once, and I didn't train at all. And in those early days, I'm talking early 2000s. And after 16 miles, I hadn't trained enough. And it was one of those where if it was my first marathon, I'd say I'm no good at running marathons, but it wasn't. And I should have known better. And so I went back and ran it another year, and put it right. Because I didn't want my lasting memory to be that one where I wasn't good enough.
Right.
Because I knew I could if I put the effort in. And I think that's the same all the way through. If we did some things slightly different on Saturday, we wouldn't be in the position we're in. So you either go and put that right next time round, or you just don't play it. And your lasting memory is that of not doing well. But, I'm sitting in a room here between my son and myself, we've got thousands of trophies and memories and great things here. And along the way, I've lost a lot. But, I think the more you try to perfect it and put things right, the better it is. And I think that's the same in work as well. You always think to yourself, could I have done better? Same with people, could I have done better with an individual? Could I have helped more? Could I have given better instruction? You want the lasting memory to be, and you do, luckily in life, you get the opportunity to go and put things right. It doesn't have to be where you give up, where it's the end of the road, That's the way that I'd look at it. And people luckily remember when it's good, They don't remember all the times that it's not so good. And that's a good thing, because they don't remember all the failure. Only you do.
Right. That is very true.
Yeah.
And I think even if they do, because we all have, somebody recently asked me, especially now that, I do a little bit more socially and, a lot more public speaking. They said, well, how do you deal with like naysayers? How do you deal with trolls or people who, and I'm like, you just ignore them. That's exactly what you do, is you just ignore them, because you're not supposed to be for everybody. That's okay. Not everyone's supposed to like you. I don't like everyone. Not everyone's supposed to like me. That's completely fine.
Yeah.
I always look at it.
I told you. Sorry.
No.
I was going to say, when I told you last week, I put something out there. Coming across to Broadcom, I asked the team, hey, there's going to be something coming, being published about the OEMs and the direction that we're going in. We have some really good things happening. I'd really like to put our case across and to answer correctly. And it was agreed, okay, that's a good strategy. Let's do that. And I went into that knowing that there are still a lot of people, customers, partners, and ex-employees that are still upset with the direction that it's going in, right? But equally, it shouldn't stop you from being able to say, hey, it's not all bad. Here's what's coming. Just give a bit of time. This is what's going to, emerge. And here's why we're doing it. A little bit of an explanation. 95% of the feedback, brilliant. 5%, wasn't so good. But the language that they used, to describe me as an individual, and taking the money and blah blah blah. Listen, I told you where I came from. Some people have worked hard to get where they are. It's not about me. These decisions are being made about business, and I just happen to be involved in that process. But 99% of people would do the same if they were allowed to, offered the opportunity to do the work I'm doing. Right. So we shouldn't allow. Just take it on. Just be brave and put your message across, despite knowing that you're going to get some negative feedback on the other side. That's okay, as long as the majority. If it's all negative, then you're in trouble. But as long as a majority of it, people are understanding and they appreciate. I got a lot of notes where people really appreciated the message that went out there.
Yeah. If it's all negative, sure, then you've got a chance for some self-reflection.
Yeah.
And to go, okay, what did I learn? How can I change this next time? But I think what you embody is just keep going. Keep going. Be brave, put 100% in, and bring people along with you. I mean, again, you're notorious for this. In fact, a lot of the people that I consider friends now are because I met them through you, and how much they admire you and how much they appreciate you as a person and as an executive. So, like I said, I know we're way over. Ricky, thank you for this. I could talk to you for another 2 hours.
I know. We'll do another one.
I would love to.
Yeah.
It's a plan.
No, thank you very much, Sabrina. It's been a pleasure.
See you next time. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you.